Welcome back to Horrifying Stories. Imagine yourself swimming in the ocean, the sun shining down, and the waves gently rolling around you. Suddenly, out of the deep blue, a shadow appears, sleek and powerful. Sharks, with their streamlined bodies and formidable jaws, have long fascinated and terrified us. These apex predators inspire both awe and fear, often becoming the protagonists of dramatic and intense stories. In this compilation of shark attack stories, you'll find some of the most gripping and chilling accounts of human encounters with these ocean giants. Picture the unexpected confrontations between people and sharks that result in unforgettable moments, miraculous escapes, heroic rescues, and tragic outcomes. Each story serves as a reminder of the ocean's raw power and the unpredictable nature of these formidable creatures. As you delve into these narratives, prepare yourself for a roller coaster of emotions. Whether it's a tale of survival against all odds or a heartbreaking conclusion, these shark attack stories will leave a lasting impression. And this is their Horrifying Stories. Viewer discretion is advised.
Evening. We begin our broadcast with breaking news. There's been a suspected fatal shark attack at Little Bay near Malabar.
More than a dozen beaches in southeastern Sydney, including Bondi, are closed today after a fatal shark attack.
Good evening. The victim of Sydney's first fatal shark attack in 59 years was 35-year-old Simon Nellist, an ocean lover from the city.
Simon Nellist was a 35-year-old British expat who, after spending 2 years in the UK's Royal Air Force, decided to move to Australia for good. It all started 6 years back when he travelled to Australia and immediately fell in love with the beautiful country. A nature lover and certified adventurer, he worked as a diving instructor upon moving to Sydney, and was part of Sydney's scuba diving social club. Undoubtedly, he loved the ocean and was in fact a strong advocate in protecting marine life and preserving its biodiversity. At one point, he expressed opposition and disappointment against the shark mitigation program launched by the New South Wales state government. For him, it not only provided little to no significant protection to humans, but also it did more harm to sharks and the rest of marine life. This sophisticated program, which he was so vocally against, required Sydney's beaches to be protected by nets, censored drum lines, and constantly roving drones and choppers above the beach area. Every time a shark gets tangled into the net, especially those species that pose a great danger to humans, tags are attached to their fins, which will then serve as their location trackers before they are released 1 kilometer away from the area and back into the ocean. The censored drum lines are 2 buoys connected to each other. One buoy is anchored on the seabed, while the other buoy has a bait hanging beneath it. Connecting the 2 buoys is a triggering magnet that is both attached to the line and a communication device. This device sends a signal to the operator once it senses a significant amount of pressure and movement from the line connected to the bait. As soon as the operator receives that signal, they immediately head to the exact location of the drumline to tag and release the shark 1 kilometer away back into the ocean. On the other hand, drones and helicopters do regular roving checks, especially during the peak summer weekends. They thoroughly scan through the waters as they fly above the city's popular beach destinations to check for the presence of these predators. Any sighting will immediately be flagged on high alert to the lifeguards of the beaches nearby, where a siren will be blasted off calling on all people to get out of the water at once. For locals and regular tourists, this was a pretty normal scenario in Sydney's beaches. It was February 16, 2022. Simon went to Little Bay Beach, a beach in Sydney which is more popular to families who would like a quick trip to the beach. Simon frequented Little Bay Beach to have a leisurely swim, but this time, he went there to prepare himself for a charity ocean swim that he was set out to join that weekend at another beach nearby. At around 4:35 in the afternoon, at Buchan Point just off the shore of Little Bay Beach, a frantic scream and the sound of a loud crash into the water broke the fun and relaxing mood at the beach. Suddenly, the beach was filled with terror and suspense as beachgoers saw for themselves the shark attacking Simon off the coast. Those who were fishing nearby had a much closer view of the horrifying attack, and some were even able to record it on camera. The hungry predator was a 3-meter-long great white shark. Out of nowhere, It sprung up from below the ocean, snatching Simon's body as it clenched its sharp teeth onto the trunk of his body. Its pointed triangular teeth and thick gums slowly moved as it devoured its helpless victim. The horrendous attack was so sudden that it caught Simon off guard, unable to at least even attempt to swim fast for his life. It was too powerful that with just one bite, it rendered the former Air Force member unconscious, unable to even put up a fight. The shark dragged Simon down into the ocean, continuing to prey on human flesh with its lethal bite. In no time, the crystal blue ocean water turned into crimson red, as blood was all over the area of the attack, until the next set of waves came to wash it away. Onlookers watched this dreadful scene unfold, with one of the witnesses even recounting in a later interview how graphic and appalling it was, that it made him vomit. Now, for great whites, this is a common hunting method. They're known for their speed and ability to blend in with the color of their surroundings. Great whites often stay in the deep, swimming while scanning for prey that is lingering on the ocean's surface. As soon as it locks its eyes on a target, it then charges with lightning speed upward towards the surface and hits its target, then immediately bites it. Great whites can have up to a total of 1,000 teeth. Its saw-like tooth can devour prey and kill it with just one bite. They usually start feeding on smaller fish and rays, but bigger great white sharks tend to go for seals, sea lions, and small whales. In Simon's case, it has been believed that the shark might have mistaken him for a seal, because of the black wetsuit that he was wearing during his practice swim. Meanwhile, back at the shore, high alert has already been activated, enforcing immediate evacuation from the waters. Lifeguards quickly hopped on their tugboats and jet skis, mounting a search and rescue operation for the diver. Helicopters and drones have also started to hover around the area to look for Simon. It took them 90 minutes before Simon was found. Not only was he found lifeless, but also in pieces. Immediately, his body, including the dismembered parts seen to be floating, were retrieved and brought back to shore. However, the jet skis, boats, drones and choppers continued to search, this time for the predator that was still on the loose. A total of 13 beaches nearby, from the popular Bondi Beach, east of Sydney, to Cronulla Beach on the south, have been immediately closed to the public as well, extending their search to that long stretch of beaches. It has been the fourth shark attack recorded in Australia for the year 2022, but this has been the first fatal shark attack around Sydney after around 60 years. The last one was still back in 1963. Each year, an average of 20 shark attacks happen in Australia. In 2020 alone, 7 had been fatal, while there were only 2 fatal attacks in 2021. Yet despite this, historical records show that fatal shark attacks are very rare, with an average of only less than 1 person per year. Sadly, the predator that mercilessly attacked Simon Nellist remains unsighted. Eventually, the charity ocean swim that Simon was preparing for that fateful day cancelled their event in honor and respect of his passing. His family back in the UK, whom he hasn't seen for almost 2 years due to the pandemic that shut the doors of almost every country in the world, will only have Simon's remains to hold for the last time. Instead of heartwarming hellos at their much-awaited reunion, suddenly, it has now turned into a heart-wrenching final goodbye. To make matters even worse, Simon was also supposedly set out to marry a year prior to his longtime girlfriend Jessie, but they were forced to push back their big day, again due to the restrictions the pandemic has brought. They were planning to push through with the wedding that year, once most of the restrictions ease up and the country's borders begin to open. Close friends and loved ones have been looking forward to a celebration of love at his wedding, but in a tragic turn of events, will now be showing up to mourn at his funeral. 1962 defending champion of the South Australian spearfishing competition, Rodney Fox, along with 40 other divers, were all eyes on the prize that hot Australian summer day in December 1963. He was only 23 years old then, just barely 4 months into married life with his lovely wife Kay. Aiming to secure his spot and be the title holder for 2 consecutive years, Rodney was fixed on spearing the dusky morwong fish. Determined, he decided to go a little further away from the coastline of Aldinga Beach, away from the other divers. They had already been in the water for hours, and the waters had become much like a mixture of seawater and blood from all the spearfishing. Rodney positioned himself at a distance from the other divers, into the deeper part of the sea. He took one breath and dived into the sea, keeping his eyes on his target. Little did he know, another set of eyes was also prying on him, silently keeping close watch. As soon as Rodney got his target locked and was ready to pull the trigger, all of a sudden, a shark emerged from the waters. The next thing he knew, the shark pounced in on him and he felt as though a submarine had just smacked on him. Clenched between the shark's teeth, Rodney was brought by his wild predator into the ocean, as the shark plunged to the waters. Then, reality hit him. Death was nowhere distant, rather, he was on the brink of death. So he figured he wasn't going to die without putting up a fight. At first, he tried to poke its eyes, trying to gouge it out. When he felt that the shark was about to retreat, he tried to push the shark with his hands, only to find his hand being bitten by the shark. He fought hard to escape from the shark's bite, and when he did, he stretched his arms as wide as he could, and seized the shark in a bear hug. However, this brought him to a disadvantage as he was under the predator's belly, submerged underwater for only as far as his breath could take him. Beyond that, he could easily drown and disappear in the depths of the ocean. As soon as he realized this, Rodney slowly pushed himself back above the surface of the water, gasping for air. When he emerged from the waters, without even looking at himself and the extent of his injuries, he saw just how horrific the attack was. The crystal clear waters now turned bloody red, not from all the spearfishing, but from all his own blood. Despite his already battered state, the attack was not over yet. From his peripherals, he could still see the shark slowly approaching him again, and started circling around him. By now, he was already expecting that the shark would come pouncing on him again. To his surprise, the hungry shark turned to his fish float, took it in one bite and dragged it. The fish float was still attached to Rodney's belt, so he also got dragged along back into the waters. Just before he was almost out of breath, miraculously, the line that was dragging him along suddenly got cut loose from the shark's sharp teeth, freeing him and enabling him to float back to surface. It was then that a boat came and pulled him out of the waters, finally putting an end to the gruesome attack. In no time, he was rushed to the nearest hospital and was immediately treated for his injuries. He sustained multiple injuries from the shark attack, which resulted in a total of 462 stitches throughout his body. All ribs on the left side were broken. Collapsed lung. His hand and parts of his body ripped off, exposing some vital organs. To this day, his wrist holds proof of the terrifying attack. A remnant of the shark's tooth still embedded inside, which was only discovered during an X-ray years after the attack. The good thing was that in spite of all the injuries he suffered, and the medical procedures he had to go through, skillful doctors were instrumental in bringing him to full recovery. In no time, Rodney was able to fully function normally again, almost as if the attack didn't happen, except for the scars the 462 stitches had brought, and his embedded shark tooth. Despite being advised to leave behind his love for the ocean for good, Rodney was drawn closer to this vast body of water teeming with creatures underwater. His rehabilitation focused on overcoming the trauma and getting fit, so he could go back to the ocean. Part of his rehab was to exercise his lungs by free-diving in the freshwater sinkholes of Mount Gambier. Unlike the rest of the people around him who knew his story, he didn't regard sharks as man-eaters. Instead, having experienced it for himself, he didn't think the shark really intended to attack him. For him, it was just a product of circumstance. He was out there spearfishing, and there has been a considerable amount of blood mixed in the seawater already, so the shark mistakenly thought he was food. Rodney never developed a sense of resentment, nor fear against great whites. In fact, months later, after getting the idea from the Adelaide Zoo's lion exhibit, he took it upon himself to experience the great whites one more time. He went inside a securely locked steel cage which was lowered down into the deep waters where the great whites were usually spotted. Once below, Rodney saw how the sharks preferred the baits more, and were never after him. He got to observe the sharks and how they normally move, calm and just trying to live their lives underwater. They aren't exactly out there to hunt humans. It was then that Rodney saw just how beautiful sharks can be, and how they deserve to be respected and protected. This second close encounter with the sharks ignited the desire in Rodney to found the Rodney Fox Shark Expeditions, which is the first and only ocean floor shark cage experience in the whole world. Along with his son and environmental scientist Andrew, they formed a team of specialists from different parts of the world who share a common passion in shark conservation. Their one-of-a-kind office is located in the waters surrounding the Neptune Islands of the Eyre Peninsula, 70 kilometers off the coast of Port Lincoln. The Neptune Islands is a protected marine conservation park and a home to one of the biggest Australian sea lion colonies in South Australia. The park's most frequent visitors are the great whites, which makes it a great location for the Rodney Fox shark expeditions. At Port of Lincoln, scientists and thrill-seekers board the MV Rodney Fox for a 4.5-hour ride to the Neptune Islands, just to have a unique and up-close encounter with the great whites. To experience this, thrill-seekers would need to wear wetsuits with lead belts wrapped around their waists and mouthpieces clenched in between their teeth. Then, they'd have to step foot inside a two-man cage of impenetrable steel, before the cage gets lowered over on the side of the vessel to the ocean floor. It is said that the best time to visit and see the sharks are between December to February, during the sea lion mating season, and between May to August as the pups set out into the ocean. For Rodney, he had lost count on the close encounters he had with these great whites, and even has his favorite shark which he fondly calls Mrs. Moo. Rodney found a different kind of satisfaction in watching and observing the sharks in their own territory. To him, nothing compares to the feeling of seeing your first shark, and the experience never gets old. Up until now, Rodney continues to advocate for the preservation of great whites, not just through the expeditions, but also through speaking engagements at various schools or international conservation and diving events. He also wrote the book, Sharks, the Sea and Me, as well as a children's book entitled Shark Man. Ironically, he has since devoted his life to protecting the same species that brutally attacked and threatened his own life. Thank you for making it this far. If you enjoyed watching this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to our channel. And let us know in the comments below if you have horrifying encounters with sharks in the ocean. Again, thank you and see you on the next one.